Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Z. I'm a clinical psychologist specializing in transgender care. Welcome to my channel. Today I want to talk to you about number one reason and what causes that reason why you're experiencing self-doubt in questioning whether you are transgender or not. And especially I'm making this video for an age group that is between age 40 and all the way up. So if you fall in the age group, if you're watching this and you're 40 years old or older, and you're questioning whether you're transgender or not, and you're constantly self-doubting yourself, you're waking up, you're asking yourself, am I really trans? It's been going on for a number of years now. Keep asking yourself, could this be true? Is this really happening to me? This video is for you, so stay tuned and I'll tell you number one reason why you're going through so many doubts. If you fall in the younger category and you're experiencing self-doubt, see a linked video below that I also did addressing why you may be experiencing self-doubts and what tends to cause it. So let's focus on you guys. So let's say, like I said, you are 40 years old and up, and you're constantly wondering about your gender identity. You've been wondering and questioning your gender identity, I would even presume, for a number of years. And probably you've been questioning, some of you have been questioning it ever since you were a child, some of you ever since you were a teenager, some of you since you were young adults. But you've been questioning your gender identity for a number of years, and you're constantly doubting yourself and telling yourself, this can't be true, this can't be true. Maybe if I just get married, maybe if I just have kids, maybe if I just change my careers, all of this will go away. Does this sound familiar? Chances are it sounds incredibly familiar to many of you. So if that's the case and you've been wondering and you've been self-doubting, well, one of the main thing and number one reason why you're having so much doubt is time combined with distraction. And let me explain what I mean. So time is how long you have been experiencing self-doubts, and traction is how it has been slowly building up and accumulating on all of the reasoning your mind has created for yourself. And this becomes a very dangerous combination that creates and infuses you with ongoing continuous self-doubt. So let me elaborate and explain to you what exactly do I mean. Well, the longer you've been questioning your trans identity, let's say 5 years, let's say 10 years, 15 or 20 years, that means that for 5, 10, 15 or 20 years, or even more for some of you, that's for how long you have been self-doubting yourself. That also means that's for how long your mind has been coming up with excuses and reasons why you're not transgender. It becomes incredibly important because the longer the time goes by and the longer you've been telling yourself that you can't possibly be trans, all the while questioning yourself and part of you knowing deep down that you are in fact transgender, but then your mind tells you maybe not, the longer this has been going on. What happens to us when that continues, we start creating a layering effect. Right? It's almost like a compound interest. Do you know the concept of compound interest in a bank? When you go and you put $1 and then you put another $1 next month, and every time on the dollar interest grows, and before you know it, in 20 years, you have more money. Well, the same compounding interest instead, in this case, which you unfortunately have compounded, is a lot of self-doubt and a lot of uncertainty. What also you have compounded that becomes a little bit scary and dangerous is you have compounded your tendency to deal with gender dysphoria over this period of time. And maybe you're watching this and you say, well, I haven't really been dealing with it. I've been suffering with gender dysphoria. And that is very well true. But nonetheless, you have been surviving one way or another. You've been coping in your own way for 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 years with gender dysphoria. The longer you tend to cope with gender dysphoria, the more likely you are, where you're at right now, to tell yourself that you really can be trans. That's where a lot of doubt tends to arise, is because you're looking back at the trajectory of your life and you tell yourself, well, I've been doing this for X amount of years. I can keep doing it for X amount of years. Or worst case scenario, I've been doing it for X amount of years, and this X amount of years is proof that I'm not trans. If I've been able to cope with this, that means I'm not transgender. That's all of these things is your mind's way of telling yourself otherwise because you're terrified internally and scared to make a change. You're terrified and very, very scared to come out. Especially by this time, which you also have compounded, apart from self-doubt and apart from different ways of coping with gender dysphoria, which you have also compounded into an interest is relationships, families, and children. All of that makes it very terrifying and scary because it's that much more things you're afraid you may lose. As a result, your doubt increases exponentially. So the older you are and the longer you've been dealing and coping with gender dysphoria, the higher your ratio of your self-doubt is going to be. The higher the ratio of your self-doubt, the harder it is going to be for you to break out of that mold. I'm sorry to say this, but this is what I've witnessed. It just makes it that much more harder because you right here have compounded all this life that you're not willing to give up. Even though this life, maybe partially or fully, is not making you happy. Maybe coping this way is very painful, but you still learned how to cope. So you tell yourself, I can just continue to cope versus making any changes. And that is number one reason why you're experiencing doubt. And this is number one reason why it's becoming so dangerous, because this compounding interest is not serving you. Don't confuse compounding interest to a good positive interest that you would otherwise have in a bank. This is not a healthy, good, happy, will make your life for the better type of compound interest. This is painful accumulation of suffering that sometimes you're not willing to give up. Okay, we all have personal reasons why we're not willing to give up this compound interest. But this is another analogy I tend to make, is like a game of Monopoly. And if you're my client and you're watching this, I probably use this example with you. So a game of Monopoly, and imagine that you know when you play Monopoly, there's always one of the blocks on the game board. There's just not a good block. It's never a good investment. You never make money on it. Either nobody ever lands on that spot because where it is arranged on a board, or maybe when they land on it, they never pay you enough because the property is not high on property. It's the same thing. So imagine you compounded a property which symbolizes your gender dysphoria. And you have invested in that property. You invested time and years in coping. A new investment is you're coping with it. You maybe making choices out of it. You're also having family and kids and relationships out of it. And you're not willing to give it up. Even though you know that block on Monopoly board is not making you any money. Even though you know that block on Monopoly board is draining you resources, is draining you energy, is making your life miserable, you're still clinging to it because you're afraid to lose it. Because your mind keeps telling you that you have compounded something here. But what you need to realize is that what you have compounded is not serving you. It's not helping you. It's perpetuating misery. Okay? So this is number one reason why you have a lot of self-doubt. Again, we're talking about time combined with distraction and all of this compounded interest. And that makes it very difficult for us to give up. And we tend to cling to it because we tend to see it as some kind of resource, as some kind of benefit to us, as some kind of, it's almost like something we have acquired and we're not willing to give it up. Again, analogy is that property, right? And we, as humans, we just tend to do that, right? We sometimes have a hard time letting something go when we invested a lot of time and energy into it. Because we're very stubborn and it's hard for us to recognize it doesn't serve us any longer. So hopefully you find this video helpful. Comment below. I bet this is going to be very relevant to a lot of you. I bet a lot of you are experiencing self-doubt. I made this video because a lot of people were commenting and asking me what to do when they do experience a lot of self-doubt. And I'll do a video after this video talking about things you can do to break out of the cycles. Things you can do that can help you let go of that compounded interest and how to recognize that it's no longer serving you. So stay tuned. I'll also link it below after I record this and comment below. I'd love to hear your comments and let me know where you fit on this and how you had, in terms of your own inner self-doubts and how you cope with them and what you've been telling yourself for the years. I'd love to hear from you and I'll see you guys all next time. Bye.